Daniel Hayes had always been proud of his beliefs. The 16-year-old high school junior wasn't shy about standing up for what he thought was right, even when it meant being in the minority. One crisp Monday morning, Daniel decided to wear his red freedom cap to school. For him, it wasn't just a hat, it was a symbol of his freedom to express himself. However, Principal Karen Sanders didn't see it that way. Known for her strict policies against anything she considered divisive, Karen confronted Daniel the moment she saw him in the hallway. "Remove the hat, Daniel, or face the consequences," she said firmly. But Daniel stood his ground, calmly reminding her of his rights. This led to a heated exchange that ended with Daniel being suspended for 3 days. What Karen didn't know was that Daniel's father, Michael Hayes, wasn't just any concerned parent. He was the chair of the school board. And when Michael found out about the suspension, he was determined to stand by his son and teach the school a lesson about free speech. Before we dive into this story of courage, integrity, and unexpected twists, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss more stories that challenge injustice and celebrate standing up for what's right. Daniel Hayes had always been a fiercely independent teenager, the kind of young man who wasn't afraid to speak his mind, even when it meant standing alone. Growing up in a household that valued personal responsibility, integrity, and freedom of speech, Daniel had learned from his father, Michael Hayes, that principles mattered more than popularity. Michael, a respected businessman and chair of the local school board, often discussed current events with Daniel, encouraging him to think critically and stand firm in his beliefs. It was this upbringing that gave Daniel the confidence to wear his red freedom cap to Liberty Valley High School one Monday morning. For Daniel, the hat wasn't about creating conflict. It was about proudly expressing his values and the lessons his father had taught him. He knew not everyone at school would agree with his choice, especially in a district known for its progressive leanings. But Daniel believed in his constitutional right to free speech and wasn't willing to hide his beliefs to avoid potential backlash. When Daniel entered the school building, his presence immediately caused a stir. Students in the hallways exchanged glances, some whispering and pointing at the bright red cap. It wasn't the first time Daniel had expressed his conservative views, but the freedom cap was a bold statement even for him. By the time he reached his locker, word of his accessory had already spread. Principal Karen Sanders, a firm believer in fostering what she called a safe and inclusive environment, often implemented policies that some students and parents felt silenced differing opinions. When Karen heard about Daniel's hat from a student, she wasted no time addressing the situation. Spotting him in the hallway, she approached with an air of authority. "Daniel, can I speak with you for a moment?" she said, her tone sharp and unyielding. Daniel turned to face her, standing tall. "Yes, Principal Sanders?" Karen gestured toward the hat. "I'm going to need you to remove that hat. It's disruptive and goes against our school's policies on maintaining a respectful and neutral environment." Daniel's expression remained calm but resolute. "With all due respect, Principal Sanders, this hat is an expression of my beliefs. I'm not violating the dress code, and I have a right to wear it." Karen's brow furrowed, her frustration evident. "That hat represents divisive politics. Daniel, it's causing a distraction among your peers, and I won't allow it." Daniel didn't flinch. "Respectfully, the Supreme Court has ruled that students don't lose their free speech rights at school. I'm not trying to distract anyone. I'm just wearing a hat." The tension in the hallway was palpable as students gathered at a distance, watching the standoff. Karen, sensing her authority was being challenged, folded her arms. "Daniel, I'm giving you one last chance to take it off, or you'll face disciplinary action." Daniel hesitated for a moment, his mind racing. He knew the consequences could be serious, but he also knew he couldn't back down without compromising his principles. "I'm sorry, Principal Sanders, but I won't take it off." True to her word, Karen issued a suspension on the spot, instructing Daniel to leave the premises immediately. As Daniel walked out of the school, the whispers and murmurs of his classmates followed him. Some admired his courage, while others condemned his defiance. Later that evening, Daniel sat at the dinner table with his parents, recounting the day's events. Michael listened intently, his jaw tightening as Daniel described the confrontation. "She suspended you for wearing a hat?" Michael asked, his tone incredulous. Daniel nodded. "She said it was divisive and distracting. I told her I wasn't breaking any rules, but she wouldn't listen." Michael leaned back in his chair, his expression a mix of frustration and determination. "This isn't just about the hat, Daniel. It's about your rights. If the school is willing to punish you for expressing your beliefs, then they're violating your freedom of speech." Daniel's mother, Laura, placed a reassuring hand on her son's shoulder. "You did the right thing. Honey, we're proud of you for standing up for what you believe in." Michael nodded in agreement. "We're not going to let this slide. As chair of the school board, I have a responsibility to ensure that every student's rights are protected. Principal Sanders has overstepped her authority, and we're going to address this." The next morning, Michael drafted an official request for a meeting with the school board, outlining the details of Daniel's suspension and the potential violation of his constitutional rights. He also reached out to other parents in the community, many of whom shared his concerns about the growing restrictions on free speech at the school. Meanwhile, Daniel's story began to spread on social media, sparking a heated debate. Some praised him for standing up to authority, while others sided with Karen, arguing that symbols like the freedom cap had no place in a school environment. As the controversy gained momentum, Michael prepared for what would become a pivotal moment not just for Daniel, but for the entire school community. The Hayes family had no idea how far-reaching the consequences of this battle would be, but they were ready to stand firm in their beliefs, no matter the cost. As Daniel's story gained traction, new dimensions to the conflict began to surface. Teachers within Liberty Valley High found themselves divided on the issue. Some quietly supported Daniel, appreciating his courage to stand for his beliefs. Others, however, sided with Principal Sanders, believing that the school's atmosphere was at stake. These divisions spilled into faculty meetings, where tensions ran high. Teachers debated whether schools should allow expressions of political beliefs that might cause unrest or discomfort. Meanwhile, Daniel's classmates took varying stances. During lunch hours, impassioned debates broke out among groups of students, with some arguing for freedom of expression while others voiced concerns over maintaining neutrality in school settings. A group of students started a petition demanding that Principal Sanders rescind the suspension and issue a formal apology. Another group, in response, circulated their own petition, insisting that divisive symbols be banned outright. In the midst of this turmoil, Daniel's social media presence exploded. His post about the incident, which had initially been shared only among friends, was picked up by larger platforms. Comment threads swelled with thousands of responses. Supportive voices hailed Daniel as a modern-day symbol of free speech, while critics accused him of intentionally stirring division. The growing attention led to an unanticipated challenge for Daniel. Reporters began showing up outside the school and his home, requesting interviews. Overnight, Daniel became the face of a broader cultural debate. His parents helped him navigate the sudden spotlight, reminding him to stay focused on the core issue, defending his right to express himself. Michael, as ever, remained a guiding presence, offering his son wisdom and helping him draft clear statements for public forums. Principal Sanders, meanwhile, felt the mounting pressure. Privately, she began to question whether her decision had been too hasty. Although she maintained her belief that the freedom cap represented divisive politics, the backlash she faced, from parents, media, and even her own faculty, was unlike anything she had experienced in her career. As she prepared for the upcoming school board meeting, Karen sought advice from trusted colleagues. Some advised her to stick to her principles, while others suggested finding a way to de-escalate the situation. The day of the school board meeting arrived. The auditorium was packed with students, parents, teachers, and community members. Reporters lined the walls, their cameras poised to capture the unfolding drama. Michael stood confidently, evidence meticulously prepared, while Karen appeared composed but visibly tense. As the board members took their seats, Michael was the first to speak. He laid out his case with precision, referencing court precedents and the school's policies. "This isn't about politics," he concluded. This is about ensuring that our schools remain a place where students can express themselves freely, without fear of unjust punishment. When Karen addressed the board, she reiterated her commitment to inclusivity but acknowledged that the situation had escalated beyond her intentions. My goal has always been to foster a safe learning environment, she said. However, I now recognize that my actions may have alienated some members of our school community. For that, I am deeply sorry. The board deliberated late into the night. When their decision was announced, the room held its collective breath. Daniel's suspension was overturned, and new guidelines were proposed to address how schools should handle similar issues in the future. Karen, though not formally reprimanded, was instructed to attend workshops on conflict resolution and policy enforcement. As the meeting adjourned, Michael and Daniel were surrounded by supporters. One teacher approached them and said, "Thank you for standing up. This needed to happen." Karen, meanwhile, slipped out quietly, reflecting on the lessons she had learned. In the weeks that followed, Liberty Valley High began a slow process of healing. Dialogue sessions were introduced, allowing students to share their perspectives in a structured and respectful setting. Teachers underwent training on facilitating discussions around sensitive topics. For Daniel, the experience was transformative. He returned to school not just as a student, but as someone who had witnessed the power of standing firm in one's convictions. Reflecting on the journey, Michael told his son, "Change doesn't come easy, but it starts when people like you are brave enough to speak up." Daniel nodded, understanding the weight of his father's words. For the Hayes family, the experience had been a trial of resilience and a testament to the values they held dear. And for Liberty Valley High, it was a reminder of the importance of balancing freedom and community in a diverse and evolving world.